Hey, it's Bailey Wiki. This is the March 2025 Design With Me series where I build Foundry scenes using free modules and tools. All assets are Bailey Wiki assets available with a 1-month Patreon sub, but these tools work with any creator's assets. So unless I say otherwise, all modules are free. Let's dive into the next map. Okay, let's start by using the single diorama scene again this time. And let's see what we might do here. Let's open up our asset browser. Let's find some diorama tiles to put around this. So these are the ruins, right? And we'll add those to a brush. This is the main one. This is the prefab. Means it's got some smart things inside of it. It's got a adjustment filter. And we'll just put a couple around. We're going to resize these and change them later. And let's see what else we've got here we might use instead. I think I might want to put this in the forest. So we're just dropping these in. We'll randomize these here, change them around in a second. It's pretty good. It looks like there's this ruin going into a hillside or obscured by some trees. I'm going to put these trees up to the next level. I'm actually going to turn these into what is essentially a roof, because I have this idea that I want that entrance there to go somewhere. And yeah, we'll have it fade, restrict light in case we want to put lights underneath there. Yeah, that'll work for now. We'll open up our levels and we'll just set our levels to 0 to 10 and from 10 to 20. When you open this for the first time, you may have something in there, you may not. All right, so now we're at the base level, and we're going to get rid of that. We don't need that anymore. And that's what it looks like when the roof is engaged, right? So now we're just going to double click these, cycle through them just to randomize them a little bit. Probably good. And let's give all of these overhead tiles the same occlusion ID, and we'll make them link sources of each other. We'll just use overground as the ID. It's just a random word. So now they both will occlude each other. So when one's occluded, the other one will occlude. That way we don't have to worry about one of them appearing or not appearing as players go into this, whatever this is, this cave or something that we're going to put underneath here. Okay, so now let's open up our category browser and we're going to look for the Bioship rooms in pieces. So I'm just looking at what's available in terms of these rooms here. This one looks good. This one has a special kind of flesh overlay. It's a token magic effects overlay applied to it, interestingly. And that's what gives it that kind of organic look. If you just deleted the token magic effect on it, it would be, it would go back to just kind of its original artwork. You can actually apply that flesh effect to anything. It's kind of cool. If you didn't notice, I dropped it in there accidentally with the roof setting on, so that is why that tile is kind of appearing when it shouldn't be. I'm going to just click on. I'm going to click on Pixel Perfect mode, just so I can select these things specifically. And I'm just trying to troubleshoot because I didn't realize what I had done at the time. We'll fix that here. I'm going to put a couple more of these on. I just copied the first ones because they automatically have that occlusion ID in them. So they'll all just occlude together, just like they're one big giant roof. I'm just doing it enough to cover the artwork there in the back. Doesn't have to be perfect. The players using walls and things, they won't be able to really see back there anyway. We'll make that fade and also give it the same code as the others. Okay, so now before we get too fancy with how this transition is going to work, let's just walk back here with our player, see if everything makes sense. So I've got this like pneumatic door here, and right off the bat, I want to change that to a fleshy sound. And I've got some custom sounds available for doors. If you use the custom doors, I think is the module. And here I am trying to figure out why that, background is doing the wrong thing. And here's where I realize I've got it up at elevation 10. So drop that back down to 0. And now I can walk through the bioship. So the idea is there's a buried bioship under the ground. There's an entrance out there with some old ruins. So this has been here presumably for a long, long time. And this is kind of the main artwork. We're going to drop some other stuff in here. So we'll go to Dungeons Bioship, and you'll see these actually look a little bit different once you drop them in. I'll show you what that looks like. And there, we'll get rid of that. That's been causing some confusion. So here's what it looks like with all the effects applied. So you can see the original artwork doesn't capture all the effects that are with it, but it's got the Bioship kind of sinewy effect on it, and it's got some other effects in that kind of middle pool. The idea being it's like a tadpole pool, like if you've watched or played Baldur's Gate 3. Now we'll drop some pods in here, and these pods are also matte enabled. But what I did, I didn't, what I should have done is I should have turned off the levels tool before I dropped this in, because these pods already have their levels all figured out. By dropping it in with the levels enabled, it inherited, it forces it into the it squeezes it into that level. And so I had to manually adjust it here. The way to do that in the future is just to not have levels enabled. Drop it in, and then you can move it around from there. But you can see it's got animation and effects, really fun. You can put players or monsters in there. Maybe somebody your players are here to rescue. And so now let's see what we want to do next. It's looking pretty good. Let's go to Dungeons again, back to the Bioship, and let's grab another tank. This one is a slightly different version. Notice I didn't have levels enabled here, and that's why it dropped in and there was no adjustments needed. Maybe I'll talk to Ripper at some point and see if he can make it an option to ignore levels for prefabs, or at least have a hotkey to do that. And so maybe this one is maybe not active unless you press it or you engage it. The other one sort of always has this gas coming out of it. That's pretty good. All those pods originally had different artwork, but when you apply that sinew overlay, they all take that on. It's pretty nice. All right, so now we want to make some kind of transition from that door to our bioship. And I think what I want to use is Monk's Active Tiles to just teleport players. Since they can't go truly underneath that archway, I want to just kind of quickly move them from one to the other. So I'll use some walls to make sure I'm blocking the site in both directions. And let's look for something we can use to teleport. I'm just going to use this active tile here. It's just a tile. It's just visible to you. Should be only visible to you as the GM. And you can just make it do stuff, right? So we'll make it invisible. We can even lower its opacity here in a second. But for right now, we'll go to triggers. We do want to give it a tag, so we'll call it Cave01. That'll be its tag, and it'll pair with Cave02, for example. And let's say that for now, we'll when a player stops within the tile, we'll go ahead and have it teleport. So let's say the triggering token, and the teleport destination will be Cave02, since this is 01, and we'll have it restricted to the only the current scene. And then we'll have our players snap to grid and have them center on the tile when they get there. Probably do that for now. We'll do some tinkering with this. Now we copied it and we pasted the next one over here. I'm using quick scale just to quickly scale it up or down. You can also use mass edit Shift D. But we'll call this now Cave02. That'll be its tag. And then we will swap out the destination for Cave01. So now we've got this mirrored and they'll teleport to each other. Okay. Now we decide kind of where we want this to go. Let's see if that's good for now. Let's drop in our player and let's see what happens. So we stopped in the middle, got into the bioship. That seems to have worked properly. Just kind of run our route as a player just to make sure everything makes sense. I'm noticing that we don't have audio here. So let's go ahead and drop in an audio beacon. Let's give our bioship a little noise. We'll go to the sounds inside of Bailey P. Towns module. And we actually have a bioship sound. It's an ambient sound. And we'll get rid of volume easing just so it's sort of a uniform sound, and we won't constrain it by walls. Maybe we will. Or constrained by elevation. That's what we want. That way if the players are above it, they won't hear it. And I was just pressing Shift D and I was expanding it. I was holding down Alt and expanding it so it covers the area. And let's see. Move some pieces around. Let's grab our player again. Make sure the audio is working properly. Here we can hear that bioship. It's pretty good, pretty eerie. Step back in our teleporter. And let's go ahead and set the tile opacity to really subtle, just so it doesn't distract us as the GM, even though our players can't see it either way. All right. Make this one also kind of bigger. I'm using Shift D here and just using the Alt key to scale it up with Mass Edit. Bring the opacity down. It's good just because I want to make sure they actually hit the teleport. And as we're testing it, we start to discover issues, right? It's getting erratic. So my current theory for stopping within the teleport is probably not going to work. And I'm just showing you how I do these things. I make, I make so many of these things. I make mistakes all the time. I forget how to do teleports properly. So sometimes I have to go in and kind of remember how to do it. So we'll say on enter this time. See if that works for us. Got to get past that invisible wall I created. Right, so it's still being erratic. So we want to change this around. And here we'll change this as well. And let's add a 3-second cooldown. That way it gives players enough time to move out. We'll do our cooldown here as well. Right. Clearly that stop when the tile isn't working for us. So we'll have enter. That way it only has a chance to trigger once. Okay. That's feeling pretty good. Remember, as a GM, when we're running this in a game, we can always disable those tiles if we want to impede our players' movement until they accomplish something. All right, let's just make some adjustments here. I'm pressing Shift E, and I'm just making sure that they've got the right tops and bottoms. Trying to determine if there's a way to keep all of that, you know, fog of war kind of looking the right way. Let's select all of these and let's just play around with our settings here. So you don't hide these tiles in the fog. And we'll even tick off that they block sight. So just reset the fog of war. That seems to be good enough. There's a little bit of artifacts left, but for the most part, they really can't see the bioship until they make their way back there. Now we may want to put some more walls, or when you play this map, you want to put some more walls to just prevent movement so they can't get back there. But for our purposes, I think this is pretty good so far. I'm using tile sort here. It's a free module by Ripper, and it shows you all of the tiles on the scene in their Z order, what's on top and what's on the bottom. It's a really fun and easy way to be able to move things around if you're building scenes with tiles like I'm doing here. All right, so we'll give this a name. Call this the buried bioship, and pretty good. So that's it for this map. Grab these assets on my Patreon, link in the description if you want to support the channel as well. If you enjoyed this, subscribe, hit the bell for updates, and drop a like or a comment. Your questions actually help the community and the algorithm. Thanks for watching, and have fun making your maps.